What's up, guys? This is Cerberus Fury coming to you live once again. I'm still around, I'm still alive, even though with this pandemic on, I'm still here. Anyway, into today's video. Quick announcement actually, just before we start. I am also streaming on Twitch. I'll leave a description to my Twitch channel in the description down below. You can go check that out if you want to. I'll do some live streaming there. Okay, it's not going to be the best quality compared to what I do here on YouTube. If you do believe it's good quality, I hope so. It won't be as much of a quality compared to what I do on PlayStation 4. I'll be using OBS Studio on PC, streaming online games like Star Wars, Borderlands, maybe a bit of Destiny. So if you want to come check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below. But on to today's subject. I want to talk about something that has made me think over the years, and during this lockdown actually, which made me think about this. How gaming has evolved over the past 20 years when I first started playing video games. Let's go on a journey through time, shall we? I'm going to take you back to this date, 25th of December 1999. In fact, was it 99 or 98? It was either 1999 or 98. One of those 2 years. I'm taking you back through time to that particular date. Because that was the day I received a PlayStation 1 for Christmas. A PlayStation 1. Now think about that. 1999. 1998. Whichever year you decided to buy yours. I think I got mine in 1999. I believe I was 8 years old. Something like that. I was not in the double digits of my age. I was quite young. I was still living in a flat. Near my school, which I'm not going to live in there anymore. Moved to a much more calmer area. And I decided to play one of the 3 games I got that year. And it was one of these 3 games. I got 3 games with my PlayStation 1 that year. Metal Gear Solid 1. I also got Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And of course, the ever so favourite, Doom. I received Doom as well, the old school first-person shooter, which has actually got a bit more popularity now, even in the modern age, because Doom Eternal recently released, and I highly recommend you go and pick it up. It's a very good game. Doom Eternal is a very good game. Even the first Doom as well for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. I recommend you go and get it, whichever platform you're on, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. Go and pick it up now, it's a good game to play. When I play the newer games like Doom Eternal and things like that, you don't think about the past. Like modern games today, you don't think about certain things. Like your objective will always be marked on your map. You'll have a map. You'll have a tutorial of how to play the game. Games on the PlayStation 1 never had that. And here's some examples. Recently, due to this lockdown, I've been playing a lot of my old retro games because I've had the time to. I've not been able to work. I've been on furlough. I've got all this free time to myself. Can't exactly go anywhere. So I thought I'd play some of my old games. So I decided to get the Doom game off Amazon, which only cost me £10, which is okay. You know, I could have got it cheaper on eBay, but I didn't want it for delivery, so I well, on top of that, it's coming from places I don't know, so I thought I'd get it from Amazon from a new, you know, that sort of thing. So I got it from Amazon, paid £10 for it, and I decided when it arrived to hook up my PlayStation 1, just for old time's sake. I still have the controller, I've still got the memory cards, I've got the power leads and all the wires that go into the back of the TV. But I encountered a problem. I couldn't. It's actually quite funny because it's not because the console didn't work, or the console was broken, or I didn't have the correct components. I had all the components. But my television, my TV, has something missing. It doesn't have a SCART lead. Because SCART leads are obsolete now, it's all HDMI. So I couldn't hook up my old console to my new TV. I had to make a choice. I had to go and take my brother's TV out of his bedroom, which is one of those 12-inch CRT ones with a video player at the bottom of it, or I couldn't play it. But then I started thinking, these are PS1 games. What console can play PS1 games? The PlayStation 3. It can read PlayStation 1 discs. Can't read 2 discs for some reason because Sony really dropped the fucking ball on that one, but let's not get into that. I decided to hook up the PlayStation 3. And holding that PS3 controller felt a bit strange because the PS4 controller was a bit wider. It just felt a bit strange holding an older controller in my hand. Even the PS1 controller, I was holding that, it's like, ooh, feels a little bit weird, feels a bit smaller. And so I decided to boot up the PlayStation 3, stick Doom in it, made a virtual memory card on the PlayStation Network, that whole thing, and I booted the game up. So it started up, the old school PlayStation intro comes up, not like the proper one, but just the basic one. It shows the PAL copyright infringement thing, which is decades old, and the game starts. I go put it on to Hurt Me Playing difficulty, and I start playing. And I'm moving the analog sticks. So I was like, obviously your common sense would tell you, like, what would be common sense, but modern games nowadays, they use the analog sticks, the D-pads for other things. So I tried to move the analog sticks. My character doesn't move. I'm like, oh, I can't move. What do I do? I was like, oh, of course, I forgot to turn analog mode on. So going to the settings, I turn on analog mode, and I seem to think, there's me thinking everything was fine. I attempt to move again with the analog sticks to move my character, or move the Doom guy with the analog sticks to, start playing. I still can't move. I'm like, what's going on here? Is my controller broken? Are the settings not right? Did I actually confirm the settings? But I went into the settings again, did say analog mode. But then it dawned on me. Doom on the PlayStation 1 was released when DualShock didn't exist. That's right, DualShock didn't exist. The analog sticks did not get used until much later in the PlayStation 1's life. I don't think it was used at the start. It was used much more later, possibly even a year later, because I remember Metal Gear Solid 1 having it. And I'm like, what's going on here? It's not working. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I had to use the directional buttons. Isn't that a funny one? I have to use the old school movement with the directional D-pad, because in the Doom manual, when games actually had manuals during that time, the controller layout on the actual manual doesn't show the DualShock controller. It shows the first edition of the PlayStation controller, the very first one, which didn't have joysticks. It had directional buttons, the start and select button, the triggers, and the X, triangle, square and circle buttons. There was no joysticks. And it made me think about other things. Like, wow, I now have to use the D-pad. And I started using the D-pad, I was playing, but I thought, oh, this feels so rigid. It doesn't feel right, I can't move as smoothly as I could with an analog stick. But back then, it didn't exist. We've grown to actually neglect older technology. And like not being able to use, I mean, it's taken away certain things. Even the gameplay itself. You have to find certain keys to open doors. It doesn't tell you where the key is. It just says, you need a red key to open this door. You have to search the map manually with your eyes and find this key on the floor, whether it drops from enemies or if it's hidden in a secret area of the map. And some games didn't even have a map. Doom doesn't have a map. I think it does. Does it have a map? Correct me if I'm wrong. It may have a map, it might not. Even if it does, it actually is most of the PS1 games are very simplistic maps. There was no showing of icons on the map of where you are, or where your item is, where your objective is. You have to figure that out on your own. So you have to manually search areas for keys and doorways. Doom 3 actually does this pretty well, because there is no objective marker. You have to do things yourself. And that also made me think, if you put, let's just say, a young child today in front of a Doom game or a PS1 game that doesn't have things like objective markers, map icons and stuff like this, they won't enjoy it. They won't enjoy the game because they're frustrated. They don't know what to do. They want to progress, but they can't because the game is not telling them where to go. And over the years, we've grown. Like some games, I feel like they've gotten easier over the years of like your objective being marked, or that sort of thing. And it makes you think about, what if this game didn't have maps or didn't have objective markers? Can you imagine a game like Destiny having no objective markers? That would be terrible. Absolutely terrible. There is also another thing that has changed over the past 20 years of me playing video games, how it has affected even people in today's society, how it has affected even people's lives. In general, the video games have actually impacted people's lives in many ways. I mean, I've seen a few stories online about some, like, the most common one we hear nowadays is, video games make people violent. How many times have you ever heard this statement being made? I mean, think about it. How many times have you seen The news talk about it makes you violent, it turns you into a killer. That whole right? That whole argument. It's just a silly argument everyone makes. And even today, we look at it like, come on, really? It's ridiculous. Let's take a look at one of the most popular video games of all time. I mean, even I played this as a kid. Even today, it's still around. Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 5, in particular. You look at that game, and you could think of all the most horrible things in human life that people do, like crime-wise, or violence, or even just things that people say. You will find the worst of the worst in GTA 5. Look at the characters. I mean, have you seen Trevor? The guy's a lunatic. So in GTA 5, you've got violence, you've got cussing, you've got, you know, even political political statements, racism. It's got everything in it. But it's Grand Theft fucking Auto. It's an 18-rated game intended for mature audiences. So a child shouldn't be playing it. That's something else as well that I want to mention. Back in the day, back many years ago, you would never see a young child with his parents purchasing any game that's 18. I personally haven't experienced it. The only way I got a game that was 18 is if my parents saw it, like my mum, if she saw the game and deemed it, okay, I've got the common sense to know it's not real, like if it's an army game or something like that, like for example, Metal Gear Solid is an 18 rated game, but she approved of that because it's just soldiers in a war. It's nothing too dangerous. There's a bit of blood, there's a bit of violence, a bit of cussing, but you hear that on a regular basis anyway. And she had the common sense to know that it's not going to affect me, or I'm not going to turn into a killer just by playing one of these games. But in today's society, it's a lot more different. How many times have any of you guys been on an online game like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Grand Theft Auto, and heard a child with their headset that sounds like they should be in fucking preschool? Or squeakers, as we call them. I mean, come on. You think to yourself, where are your parents? What are your parents doing? I wasn't allowed to play these games when I was a kid. You wouldn't catch me playing, like, I would never let a young child today play GTA 5 because, unfortunately, we live in a generation of snowflakes. We really do. It's quite a shame, really, because they're good games, but unfortunately some people get their minds warped very easily, or they're just plain stupid. Like, how can GTA magically turn you into a killer? It can't. There has been no link between violent video games and violent behaviour. $500 million at the CDC in the United States of America was spent to try and find a link between violent video games and violent behaviour. That's today. 20 years ago, that never existed. It was common sense. This game's 18. It's not for kids. End of story. There's none of that, oh, maybe it's not too bad, oh, my child isn't going to get warped, you know, that sort of thing. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at, what's another game as well? I'm trying to think of other games that I've played that have subjective themes in them. Okay, this is a good one. Dead or Alive, the fighting game, or the beach game with all the girls with huge boobs and just, it's got some sexual content in it. I mean, they're wearing bikinis, their bust sizes are ridiculous sizes. It's like, there's no way near that's comfortable. I mean, they're like 3 times the size of their head. You think to yourself, nah, it's too big. I mean, I'm not complaining, I like that, but still, it looks a bit ridiculous. And that game was banned from being sold in, I think, the Western countries, like the United States and even the UK. Dead or Alive, I think it was Dead or Alive 3, something like that, Dead or Alive 3, Extreme 3. It's not even the fighting game version, it was actually the bikini version on the beach where it has all the mini games, like skiing, swimming, that sort of thing. It was just an excuse to have scantily clad girls in outfits just showing it off. That's it. So it had that suggested content, but that was offensive. That's what's wrong with today's society as well, how games have changed, because most people just, the common sense would tell you, if you don't like something, don't go near it. Don't play it. Don't do that, whatever that thing you don't like. Don't watch it. If you're like scared of a film, a horror film, don't watch it. It's common sense. But today's society, people don't have that. I'm sorry, I'm going into a rant again, but anyway, I'm going to end this here before I start going into a rant, because that's a subject best saved for another video. Anyway, tell me in the comments below. Do you have any old retro games? Do you believe that you have, you know, made games that to you are much more easier now? We have all these these extra features like, you know, objective marker, stuff like that. Tell me in the comment section below about a time when you've played an old game and realised that you don't have certain things to help you in the game, and how it's affected you. Tell me what your first PlayStation game was, or whatever game you played, in the comments below. Tell me. I mean, I'd like to hear it. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a good day. This virus ain't gonna last forever, so you haven't got to worry about that. Stay home, stay safe, and if you are a key worker and you have to travel for work, please be safe. That's all I ask. That's all we ask of you. Anyway, guys, have a good day, and as per usual, stay frosty. I'm out. Have a nice one. Have a good one.